Welcome back. Now, more than 75 lakh voters will decide the fate of 191 candidates in 30 seats in West Bengal. All eyes, of course, are set on the high-profile Nandigram constituency, where the Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee will fight her former aide Suvendu Adhikari. Let me go across to Anuj, who's reporting from the ground right now. Anuj, we are given to understand that Mamata Banerjee has now changed her plan, and this has happened just very short while ago, and she's deciding to stay in Nandigram through the day. Now, what has brought about this change in her, in her plan?
Well, when we are talking about Nandigram, then this is a known fact today that the most important seat is Nandigram when we are talking about the elections in West Bengal. And today is the phase 2 when the Nandigram seats is polling, the voters in Nandigram is polling. So Suvendu Adhikari himself voted today at around 7:35 a.m. in the morning. So this is something what we have been told, that now Mamata Banerjee, who was scheduled to visit to West Bengal area, and there she have changed her schedule, and she is going to be there in Nandigram itself. Let me tell you that that's from last 3 days what we are seeing. The focus is on Nandigram, because we do understand this is the battle ground when we are talking about Nandigram. Let me also remind you, this is none other but the Supremo herself who is contesting election from Nandigram, leaving her own seat and coming back to Nandigram. And this is about the stake of TMC. On the other hand, this is about the stake of Mamata Banerjee herself, because if we talk about the Bharatiya Janata Party candidate, this is none other but Suvendu Adhikari, once the aide of Mamata Banerjee, once the Mantri in TMC. So this is obviously about the stake of both the leaders, whether being it Mamata Banerjee or whether being it Suvendu Adhikari. So this is something which we do understand has changed the schedule of Mamata Banerjee, where she was all scheduled to go to the north area of the West Bengal, but has cancelled her schedule for the day. But she's going to be here in Nandigram itself. We have seen how on the last day of the campaigning, this was none other but Amit Shah along with Suvendu Adhikari who was campaigning in Nandigram. And after that, we have seen how Mamata Banerjee was also conducting the road shows, and this was the 4 road shows she did on that very day when it was the last campaigning day in the for the phase 2 of Bengal election in Nandigram. Yes.
Right, as you're pointing out, of course, Anuj, now also we do know that Section 144 has been imposed in Nandigram. And let me also go across to our guests who are now joining me. Abhijit Iyer Mitra, he's joining us from Delhi, and Joydeep Mukherjee is joining me from Alipurdur. Both of you, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. Now, Mr. Mitra, if I could come to you first. Now, we have seen sporadic reports of violence coming in from, all the constituencies that we are seeing in West Bengal. Specifically, we had reports of clashes between the TMC and the BJP coming in from Debra. We've also had some reports come in from Medinapur. Many people are wondering as to why, elections in West Bengal never seem to be peaceful.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me on. Look, elections in Bengal fundamentally can't be peaceful. If you remember, this was the state where it had the highest amount of violence during partition. It's always been extremely violent. Remember the Naxal movement? I don't think people remember what kind of a state of terror the residents of Kolkata lived in during the Naxal movement. And the politics of Bengal has always been extraordinarily violent. We do a very good job of somehow glossing over it, with the stereotype of the Bengali Bhadralok and things like that. Sadly, that's never been the reality, because you just need to go shortly outside Calcutta and you will see the poverty. And we all know that poverty leads to violence. In Bengal specifically, remember, there are so many divides out there. Of course, there's the religious divide, which was the basis of partition. But then there has been severe political divides, severe violent political divides. And there's been a sort of consolidation around, the land reforms after land reforms. You had this consolidation around essentially clubs, what are called the padas. Now, essentially what that does is it's a modern kind of feudalism which creates sort of interest groups with their local thug gangs and things like that. And there's nothing you can do to get away from it. So fundamentally, by the very nature of it, it never really industrialized after independence, even though the British gave it some momentum there. It's fundamentally going to be violent sociologically and the way it's structured, the polity is structured.
Okay. I'd also like to bring Mr. Joydeep Mukherjee into this. Now, Mr. Mukherjee, since the morning we have seen the TMC and the BJP both pin the blame on each other for what we are seeing on the ground. The Election Commission, of course, has a very tough job at hand in this election, because it's not just the violence that they have to deal with, but it's also, COVID protocols. But, political parties, both sides, not really stopping at anything.
वर्कर को घर में घुस के कुछ पिटपाट किया, वो कांचन नगर में हुआ। ओंकार जाना और एक की फांसी लगाने हुए, उसका पीछे पंचायत मेंबर आमिरुल है, उसका तुरंत गिरफ्तारी की मांग है। ओवरऑल पीसफुल है, पूरा शिकंजा कस दिया सेंट्रल फोर्स ने। केंद्रीय पुलिस सुफियान दे टाइट করে দিয়েছে। এই যে মোটরসাইকেল করে 30টা মোটরসাইকেল নিয়ে প্যাপও বাজানো সব বন্ধ হয়ে গেছে। 200 কোটাকুড়ি বলতে আছে, অস্তিত্ব বাকি বুথে নেই।
সেটা কি দাবি করছেন দাদা?
Okay, Mr. Mukherjee, I'm very sorry about that. We had to interrupt you there, but you were talking us through, what is your understanding of what's happening on the ground?
No, more or less, elections is peaceful. I can say only one thing, that is till now, which I am getting information from my different sources, that some small incidents happened in the today's elections, but more or less, elections is already 40% vote is already been casted, especially in Nandigram, and there is some allegations from the part of the Trinamool Congress that the central force is also crossing their limit and jurisdiction, because the central force, and sometimes they are some of the central force, I am not saying about all central forces, some of the central forces, they are also asking to the voters to cast the vote in favor of BJP, but it is very unethical and it is unconstitutional. But election commission should interfere in this matter, because the Trinamool Congress has already filed the complaint before the election commission, but if it is happened by the central forces, but immediately these concerned central forces, those who committed such type of unethical and misconduct, they should be suspended and they should be removed from the election procedure.
Absolutely. As you're pointing out, those are allegations that are coming in from the TMC, but visuals you see on your screen right now are of two places where we have seen altercations. We're going to come back to you, but let's cut across to the Prime Minister's rally that is being held in Kokrajhar in Assam.